each other for decades. He and I didn't know him, but he was familiar with my family. But he and I have been friends ever since we met. And through the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups and the downs, we've always been friends. Things happen in life, but we've always been friends. And there's no greater privilege and no greater blessing than to marry my friend. And and I thank God because sometimes we think we know what we want or what we need based on who we are at the moment, where we are, but God sees way down the road, and he knows what we need before we even get there. And I thank God for giving me what I needed. So, but I'm here to talk about the significance of today. It's youth in the ministry, but it's also it's about honoring our young people at Paradise and all of their achievements. Our young people. I'm the oldest young person that got recognized today. But when I went to law school, it wasn't planned. It wasn't something that I grew up and figured I would always do. I felt a nudge. I felt like God was pulling me or tugging at me to go. And for 5 years, I resisted. I fought it. Thought, nah, I don't. I'm older, much older, and I didn't figure that I would just do a change. Something that would just be so drastic from what I had been doing for 15 years. And when I went to law school. I was actually going to go here in Atlanta, and I went to Southern University Law Center for a program. It was a weekend program. And when I got down there, I thought, I was sitting there, and I said, oh, my God, this feels right. I had visited all of the law schools here in Atlanta, and I thought, well, okay, I'm going to pick a place, but none of them felt right. And when I got to Southern, I had never been to Baton Rouge, didn't like it when I got there, didn't like the building itself, but I was sitting there, and I thought, this feels right. And over the course of 6 weeks, I quit my job. God gave me another job. I found a place to live online. I got accepted into the university. I moved my daughter to school, and all of that happened in 6 weeks. And my thought, what I said was, Lord, if this is you, at the beginning of the 6 weeks, it was June. I said, if this is you, you'll make a way. And he did, right 6 weeks. I didn't even have a place to live until 2 weeks before I got there. And when I got there, he was the vice chancellor at the time. He says, listen, we can't give you a scholarship because you're going part-time, but here's what you do. Write a letter to the chancellor, tell him this. So I never paid out of state tuition ever, and cut it in half. While I was there, I've always been a math person. Started off school doing engineering, then I switched to computer information systems. So I was very methodical, had a plan for everything. So to go to law school where it's very abstract, it's big picture, and it's not very it's not a process-oriented type of discipline. I struggled. I was afraid to go. I was afraid to go to law school because I didn't think I could handle it. I didn't think I could make it. And when I got there, I remember I learned after I got there, because I knew nothing about law school or what it took or anything. I learned that you get one grade throughout the entire semester. You take one test the entire semester, and it's at the end. So you spend 3 to 4 months learning, oh my God, so much information. And at the end of the semester, you've got one test, 4 hours long, about 4 questions long, and you're not graded on whether you got it right or wrong. You're graded by how well you wrote compared to everyone else. So, first semester I finished, I think I was 4th in my class, and they rank you. So, you get your grades, but they also rank you. So I finished 4th in my class. Then the next semester, I was up to number 2 in my class. Then after the first year, I think going into my second year, I made law review. Law review, they take the top 7% of the school in order to get into law review. Very prestigious. I interned for a federal judge. They take the top 10% of all students in the United States, and that's how they select you for interning with the federal judge. I made moot court, oral arguments. I didn't know what it was. As a matter of fact, Elder Fortson's best friend, who is the chief solicitor for Fulton County, said, hey, you need to go and get on moot court. Okay, what is that? I get on moot court, I win best oralist. Had no idea. Win that. From there, I got selected to represent someone who was in jail to do oral arguments for his case before the Louisiana Supreme Court. All of these things, I graduated magna cum laude. I graduated with law review and with moot court. I graduated with honors, fully decorated. And it was all God. It was not me. I had no idea what any of this stuff was going in. And I looked back on it and I thought, it's no way that I could possibly do it. So when I was thinking about what to say this morning, and I'm going to wrap it up in a second, I thought about my nieces and my nephew. I took them to paint the other day, and when they got ready to paint, there was this picture that they were supposed to do, and it was, when they got there, it was a blank canvas. And it was blank canvas, but it had an outline of an owl there. And when they got there, they go through and they tell them how to paint. So when they got finished, I went in and I, said, show Auntie Charlie what your, pictures look like. So I saw what the pictures were supposed to look like. This is the first one that was done. And this was done by my oldest niece, Willow. And it looks just like the picture that they had. It's, perfect. In the lines, it's an owl sitting on a branch. And when she came and showed me her picture, she was very confident, happy. And it was a perfect picture. Then when my other niece, Van, had her picture, she says, Auntie Charlie, here's my picture, but I messed up. It was supposed to be an all-white background, but I made it yellow. Then when I got to Bianca, she said, I looked at her picture. Well, she saw something a little different in her picture. She made trees instead of limbs, but the limbs were the outline that were given. Then when I got to the youngest, Mikhail, this was his picture. His picture was an abstract. And I think sometimes as people, when we see this picture, the perfect picture, we say, okay, this person has it together. This person knows exactly what they're doing, where they're going. They're within the lines. They're walking the straight line. And I knew people. I have a friend right now who knew ever since elementary school that she wanted to be a scientist. She wanted to do research. And when she did, and she went through, she was the first black neuroscientist in the Midwest. She knew from the time that she was in elementary school, this was her. But then there were some of us who made mistakes, but it's still a picture. This is some of us. And then there were those of us who saw something a little different. I want to do it a little differently. When I got to this picture, my first thought is, what is that? When I asked him about his picture, he says, my picture is behind here hiding. And what I thought about was, I feel like this is how God saw me. I was a mess. When I was in high school, I had done well my last 2 years, but when I got to my last semester, I failed my English final. And my teacher would not let me graduate. And all my family had come down. They were here from New York and every place, and they wouldn't let me graduate. She said, "You missed it by a point, and I'm not going to let you walk. I'll let you take your final, but I'm not going to let you walk." So I had to retake the final, and I never went to my high school graduation. When I got to college, I got pregnant. I was not married. I dropped out 2 years. I was not in school. This was me. When I went to college, I started off as a mechanical engineer major, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. People told me, "You were good in math, you're smart." So I did mechanical engineering. Well, I didn't like it. Then I switched to accounting. I didn't like that. I'm pregnant. Well, that really wasn't good, but it was what it was, you know? And then it's somewhere in there, I got married, got divorced, single parent, Sister Daphne, and still trying to figure out, who am I? I look like this, at least to me, and probably from everybody standing outside looking like, "God, this girl is a mess. Look at this." But there was a picture in there hiding. No one could see it but God. A mess to the world, but God saw me. So after that, I went back to school, did computer information systems, got my bachelor's degree, went on to get my Master of Science, went on to get my MBA, and then I went on to get my J.D. So I stand here today as this picture. This represents me. God saw me. And I thank God that when I didn't see myself, when I didn't believe in myself, when I didn't have the confidence, when I didn't look like everyone else, when I didn't have it all planned together, when I didn't know what I was going to do, when I thought I had disappointed everybody around me, and most of all, I had disappointed myself. I didn't know who I was, and so I was tossed back and forth, trying to figure out, who am I? Who did God call me to be? Jeremiah 1:5 says, "What? Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I ordained you." I had a purpose for you. That meant I set you aside. You didn't even realize it. When you looked in the mirror, you saw this, but when I looked at you, I saw this. So I want to encourage young and old. I am 40, I'll be 43 in a couple weeks. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter when you start. Doesn't matter where you start. Doesn't matter how many times you make a mistake. It doesn't matter how many times you fall down. Get back up. Keep going. When you look in the mirror, you may see this, but know that this is not the way God sees you. Pray that God would give you the vision to see you as He sees you. We all are wonderfully made, beautifully made, fearfully made. He has purpose for us all. So I stand here today unapologetically, Dr. Charletta Anderson-Fortson Esquire.